Everybody set? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Dan Adams. I'm a sergeant with the Grand Rapids Police Department, and I'm the department's public information officer. Thank you to our media partners for joining us today for this press event. In a moment, I'll turn it over to Chief Payne, in which he'll address a few current events here at the department. He'll have time for a few questions afterwards, and then he'll have to get back to work, so no one-on-ones available after the chief speaks. Okay? All right, Chief Payne?
Thank you, Sergeant Adams, and thank you, everyone who is here today. As a city and as an organization, we've had some unprecedented times over the last several weeks, and I have not had an opportunity to speak to the media in this type of setting. So I want to provide an opportunity to give some updates and also answer some questions. One of the things we're looking at is well, let me back up. One of the things we are doing is listening to community. And I've been meeting with community members, some individually, some as groups, getting feedback, hearing their concerns. I've met with people who want to be involved and be a part of a solution. And that's taken up a lot of time, which I enjoy doing because I need the community's feedback. I'm working with city staff, our finance department, and other city employees to see how we can do things differently. A big part of that is our legal team that have been very supportive of the things we've been talking about. But I'd like to talk briefly about some of the things that we've heard from the community. And certainly, first and foremost, is something that's been known as 8 Can't Wait. Many of these items will be addressed in our use of force policy. I'm confident we set aside timeline of the next 60 days to have revision. I hope to have it done sooner, but it takes time to working with legal because what I don't want to do is have a policy or something in place that is not fully understood. So like the banning of chokeholds, it's not been a practice of our department for years, or the time I've been here. I want to put that into policy so it's clearly understood by officers and the community, our community members, that chokeholds are not utilized by the Grand Rapids Police Department. Unless it's a situation where it's a deadly force encounter. So those are the type things we're working through. The de-escalation has been a part of our department for years. I want to make sure it's really highlighted in the policy. And again, that's just a few of the items. I've been working with Mr. Davis quite a bit and talking with him of oversight and accountability. He and I say we have daily multiple conversations and working together to make sure his office is up and running. I mentioned our financial people in the city. We're looking at how to make sure he is funded and so that he can do the important work that he's been doing. I mean, from before Mr. Davis was even appointed and before that office was created, I was supportive of it, and I still am supportive of it. I want us to be the model when people look at how things are done within the city of Grand Rapids. And when other cities look at how things are done, he adds another layer of accountability, and I welcome it. There's been discussions about the budget, and I put it as discussions. There's been no decisions made on it. In fact, at this point, it's about the budget. What I will say about that is that if there's a significant reduction in our budget, it will impact our operations. And my number one priority has been from day one, the safety of the community. That concerns me. But right now, there's been a discussion about it. And moving forward, I'm sure there's going to be more discussions about it. But I must point out that the safety of the community is my number one priority. And any significant reductions to our budget could potentially impact that. And that's not a scare tactic, it's reality. Our men and women of the Grand Rapids Police Department are out there serving, and I want to make sure that they're equipped with the proper training, with the proper equipment, to make sure that they're performing at their optimal level. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Do you agree with the assessment by the unions that a reduction to that 32% would result in the layoffs of about 78 officers or so?
Again, that's been a discussion. There's nothing that's been put in place as far as any reduction, so I want to make that clear. That's the city manager's process. That's something he's working on, working with that discussions. What I will say, that a significant reduction in our budget will create some operational challenges that we would have to face if there was those reductions. But at this point, there's been discussions about it, and that goes to the safety of the community, which is my number one priority.
Chief, right now, the number being bandied about is about $9 million. The fiscal year gets underway in less than 2 weeks. If that $9 million all of a sudden disappeared, talk about what impact that would, immediate impact that might have on the department and your ability to do your jobs.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I haven't, the numbers that you mentioned, $9 million, that would be considered a significant reduction. That will have an impact on our operations. What that is, I have not had time to look at that, because at this point, there is a discussion out there, and I appreciate the discussion. What I can tell the community and community members out there is that a significant reduction will impact our operations. What that exactly looks like, I'm not prepared to do it. I'm concentrating on the items, the 23 items that have been put forth that I know I can have an immediate impact on. And that's what I've been spending my time with, how to look at those items and make sure that we're making the reforms that we said we would make, and getting that done. At this point, I have not looked at what $9 million means to our operation, but I would consider that a significant reduction.
When do you expect, what's the timeline for discussions becoming decisions?
Of reference,
Right now it's discussions. What's the timeline for when a decision would be made on this,
on what matter, I'm sorry?
on the budget?
On the budget. Again, that's with the city manager. He's the one that presents the budget. Right now, it's a discussion. I meet and talk with him often. We have not discussed the specifics of what that looks like. Again, I'm concentrating on the 23 items that have been put forth that I know I can make an immediate impact on.
A lot of the conversation has been about kind of divestment and then reallocating to like mental health workers and others who are specialized in certain situations as opposed to a police officer. What's your take on some of that? On that?
That's certainly something we can look at and that we have looked at. I'll give the example of the HOT team. We took a officer and dedicated it to the homeless outreach team. There's fired, committed to a personnel with their, what we're looking to do is to build on that and have civilians involved in that. Non-sworn people like social workers and different things. That's a model that's throughout the country that has been effective. That certainly is something that we would look at.
One last question.
How's the morale of your officers? I know in a lot of places it's low with everything that's been going on.
And as I mentioned, we have a lot of dedicated employees here. They're dedicated serving the community. These are trying times for law enforcement in general. I would like to say the morale is sky high. It's not. I mean, what we went through the last couple of weeks has been very difficult on all of us. It's been physically draining and mentally draining. One of the programs we initiated, we have an internal person to work with officers and have these discussions. We have city services that are available to them. What I can tell them, what I would say to the officers is that I appreciate the work they're doing. They're committed to this community. They're out there continuing to work. But we have to get through this together, and they have my full support in their actions. I've said from the beginning, I will hold them accountable. I praise them when praise is due, but I also defend them when it's necessary. And I can't speak enough about the work that they're doing out there. These are trying times for law enforcement across the country, not just here in Grand Rapids. So we will work together. We want to make sure we have a good workplace for all of our employees, sworn and non-sworn, and we'll continue to work on that. All right? Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.